later in this episode.
We have to have the kid too.
Yeah.
Because the kid, he's annoying. I don't like kid characters a lot of times in movies. They have to be really good for me to like them.
Sure.
But this kid is so obnoxious. I just don't like this kid. I
This guy
find
is a
everything with him is like filler. And I don't like filler in my film like this. I want to get to the thing. I want to keep going on this ride. I don't want the movie to slow down just for some stupid kid.
Go suck an egg.
Welcome back to the SuperCaZt. I am the Super Foch, and as always joined by my good buddy SteveZ, and we are talking about a classic called Dick Tracy, as if you didn't already know. How's it going, SteveZ?
I'm okay. It's a classic for some, but not for everybody because
Hey, that's all right.
not everybody grew up with this. Not everybody is even aware of this probably because it's.
Right.
I think it's a film that's kind of it's run out of fashion. It doesn't. It's definitely not cool in 2024 to pop in Dick Tracy, and even in 1990 it was kind of weird, but that's okay. I still love it, and I know you do too.
Definitely. And I was thinking about this film, coming into this, and it's like, how do you really, for people that have not seen this film, or maybe even not heard of this film, how do you describe it? Because it's got elements of a lot of different things. You've got your noir feel, you got your superhero feel, if you want to say that. What do you think? I mean, can you really nail this film down by one genre, or is it, like I said, kind of a mix of a few things?
Well, it's a mix, but I've got the two different viewings the two times I've watched it for this show. So the first time I thought it was great when it was kind of leaning into that just totally two-dimensional characters, like flat as can be. I mean, these are comic strip characters. This was like in your newspaper. Not a lot of character depth here, and we definitely have that. I think this film, if you look at it on the surface, like we were saying, Dick Tracy, what's his motivation? Yeah, well, he just hunts the bad guys. I mean, that's what he does. What's Big Boy? What's he about? Well, he just wants money. He wants to rule the world. So they're very basic, but I think on this second time viewing, I did see a lot more depth in here, a lot more, especially with Breathless Mahoney's character. So there's definitely elements of that here, but like you said, if I'm selling this to somebody, I think I'm selling it on the aesthetics. I'm just like, guys, this looks like a comic strip. I mean, at certain points, it looks like a live action cartoon. It's that colorful. It's that unique in the way it looks. And to me, that's the most admirable aspect of it, in my opinion, and what makes it so just kind of its thing and really of no time, totally.
Yeah. And for those who don't remember when this movie came out, we're talking like late 80s, early 90s. I know Batman had been out, but there wasn't this comic book movie craze like we have now with the Marvel stuff and the DCEU. So this was a film that kind of just came out of the blue. Yes, it is based on a comic strip, and I don't remember seeing this for the first time. I don't remember my first time viewing this film, but I do remember watching it a ton on VHS way back in the day. Do you remember your first time viewing this film?
I remember going to see it in the theater just because it was a film that was so hyped. I mean, they were trying to make another Batman because Batman came out like a year before, and Disney thought this was going to be their Batman. That's why there was all that memorabilia. There was all the action figures and stuff. I think I had a Dick Tracy birthday party that year or something like that. I just got all this stuff. So I was excited about going to see it. But my actual viewing experience watching it, I don't remember too much. I remember the scenes at the beginning. I remember the stuff with Steve the Tramp and the kid. And then I remember the blank appearing, and I'm like, what is this? This is weird. And then I remember the absolute end of the film, like the last shot. But it was sort of like a fever dream, I guess, watching as a kid. So I don't really remember watching this too much until, I guess, when I got a bit older and I could appreciate it. I remember you showed it to me in college, and I was like, this is amazing. This is like a 1950s musical thrown into a 1990 comic book or something like that. So I don't know. I really like it now. I wish this movie would get more hype.
I do too, man. I mean, I remember as a little kid being very much a fan of this film. I had a comic book. It came like, remember that comic book I had that was like Swamp People or something like that? I mean, I had a lot of memorabilia. I had the Dick Tracy cop car. I think I had like a statue of Dick Tracy that was given to me. But one of my favorite things was, it was basically the watered down version of this film on audio cassette, and had a little book that I think went with it too. So I was a pretty huge fan of this film from way back. A lot of stuff went over my head that I think about now, and I'm like, I never got it. You know, all the stuff, of course, with Tess and Madonna, Breathless and Tracy. You know, I didn't get any of that for good reason, probably. But I was definitely a fan of just, you know, the character. I think the character Dick Tracy was so cool in his bright yellow hat, and you know, I loved it. And I think to get into this film, stop introing it. I think what you can say about this film is it's a lot of fun. I think it's a lot of fun. I think that it almost takes itself a little too seriously, but I don't think it goes all the way. I think it still realizes, yeah, this is a comic strip. This is not, you know, something too serious. But there's a lot to talk about this film, so we'll stop, you know, wasting time and get right into it.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to go away from what you just said. I don't think it takes itself too seriously. I think, especially the actors, they're hamming it up.
No, that's why I said it. I don't think it does.
Yeah, they're going crazy. They, I think about how much fun Al Pacino probably had playing Big Boy Caprice.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
I mean, James Caan's in it for one scene, and he's just like, I'm going to be just ham it up to the extreme. I'm just going to go nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of fun. So colorful. I mean, it's a feast for the eyes. I mean, I don't want to act like I'm just like a person that just is all about the colors the whole time, but to me, that's the main reason I put this in here, because it's amazing what they did with the lighting of this film. And the matte paintings are crazy. Like, this is some of the best matte paintings I've ever seen in a film. Like, you can't tell really where the set ends and where the painting begins a lot of times. I think they did a great job with that, and I think they did a great job of just deciding not to shoot this on location. Like, let's shoot it all on soundstage. Let's make it look so fabricated. I love that. Just the fact that it is a fantasy, that nothing in this film is real. I mean, even when they're shooting the machine guns at the end, it's just like, are these guys even getting wounded, or are they just falling down to pretend dead so they can come back in the next issue or something? It's tons of fun.
All right.
Hello, gentlemen. Where's Lips Manless?
Who's Lips Manless? Yeah, who's Lips Manless? We get to make one phone call. That's the law.
Yeah?
Yeah. Give me the phone.
There's the phone. Be my guest. Make a note, Pat. They waived their right to a phone call.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, and I want to get this out there right at the top, is Warren Beatty is the star playing Dick Tracy, but he's also the director of this film. And this is not his first director, or a few other films. And so I think that's one aspect of the film that really impresses me, is that because every scene I feel like is shot with extra care. Like, none of this, you know, we're talking about all of these sets and stuff. None of this is phoned in or halfway done. I mean, yeah, it's on a soundstage, but there's some shots that even, you know, today look really, really good, like on the docks and stuff. So to say that it was not on location and in a soundstage is not necessarily a bad thing. I think they really maximized the space and really put you, you know, in sort of this fantastical place.
Yeah, and I'm praising it for that soundstage aspect. I think it's great. I wish more movies kind of embrace that. I know Barbie did it recently, just this whole fantasy aspect, and to me, the lighting is just amazing. Like, I don't know who did the lighting, who did the cinematography for this film, but it's beautiful, and I think we definitely see Beatty's touch on all of this. I think he if you do any research on this guy, he basically picked his projects very carefully after, I guess, the mid-'70s or so. And this was one that he just, like, I grew up reading Dick Tracy. I wanted to make this into a movie. And he tried to get other people to direct it, but they just kept falling through. And I'm glad he got to do it, just because I don't think it would have turned out any. I think if Martin Scorsese did it like he originally thought, or Steven Spielberg or somebody like that, I don't think it would have been the same film. And I think it's unique in its editing. We'll get into the musical numbers and stuff in a sec. I don't know. I just can't think of another movie that's like this, really.
Yeah, it's definitely original. It does have a lot of feel, like I said in the opening, of a lot of movies. It is very close to a comic book movie. It's got touches of the noir stuff. So, it's a very unique film, as you said. And, it's one of those films that I feel like it's not really dated. I mean, it's back in the day and stuff, and it's reflecting a certain time. But as far as the looks of the film and everything, it's not really dated, and it's really held up, from what I watched the other day. Would you say the same?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's, like we were saying, the look of it, I mean, it doesn't need digital effects. It doesn't need any of that. It's just, I'm going to set up the camera and this beautiful little set we've created, and then the actors are just going to do their thing. And like I was saying earlier, the actors, they really bring it. They seem like they were having a lot of fun on this thing. Everybody from Seymour Cassell as Sam Ketchum to, like we were saying, Al Pacino as Big Boy. They're all having a lot of fun. In fact, a few of them, I had to write down some of their lines. I'm like, who wrote this dialogue? Is this improv? Is this just insanity? It's a great cast, and I think it's kind of interesting to me. Can you believe Al Pacino got nominated for Best Actor or Best Supporting Actor for this? I just find that hard.
I can actually. I really can. He almost steals this film away from everybody else. Like, we'll talk about some other performances, but I think that's a good one to start with because. And by the way, guys, we're not going to go scene by scene with this film because there's not really a heavy plot. It's basically him, Dick Tracy, going after the bad guys, and there's a little love triangle that we'll discuss later. But we'll talk spoilers as far as like certain things. So here's your spoiler warning in case you've not seen this film. But basically, Big Boy is trying to start his own gang here at the beginning. He blows up a poker game. That's like the first 5 minutes of the film, which to be a family film, that's a pretty violent beginning if you think about it. I know it's not necessarily graphic, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, you get introduced to characters and they all die instantly. And
yeah,
I remember
exactly.
That freaked me out as a kid because that is one part that kind of I stood out to me because I remember they had these little posters of all these guys everywhere. Like I remember going to McDonald's or wherever it was that was promoting this film, and they had Littleface. I'm like, this guy looks interesting. He's got a big old face, and then all of a sudden he's dead instantly. Yep. And that is pretty rough. I mean, there's no violence or anything, but man, Flat Top, he almost has too much fun killing all these guys.
Oh, I love Flat Top. Oh, I'll get back to him.
He's a great henchman, and Big Boy takes over, and then once again, it's pretty graphic. I mean, he puts Lip Manless in cement and throws him in the ocean. I mean, we don't see that actually happen, but it's pretty. Pretty terrifying when you think about it as an adult. Right. And I guess that's why Disney decided not to release this under Disney proper and under like Touchstone Pictures instead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not necessarily a family film. In fact, there's a couple of different scenes that I know we were talking about off the air a little bit that, I'm really surprised they got, they're in there the way they are. There's a scene with Breathless and Dick Tracy. And even in the beginning, like I said, this shootout, I mean, it's not necessarily too graphic, but, it's still kind of a graphic scene, for especially the first couple of minutes of the film. But basically, Big Boy is taking over this crew, and he kills the leader, of course, which is Lips Manless, takes over his club, and now you got your movie. And here comes Dick Tracy to try to stop him. And so that's basically the movie.
Yeah. And just starting right off the bat, okay, so what was Big Boy's plan? Mm-hmm. Did he just want to have a club that bad? Because as soon as he does it, he's like, we're going to have rehearsals in the middle of the night right now. Yeah. And he just pulls the whole band in there, all these dancers, Breathless, and she doesn't look like she's having it. She's not into it. And it's it's just, like I said, I don't understand the motivation for this guy. He's the one part that's almost not too much like a comic strip. I mean, yes, Al Pacino's playing it up big and yelling, screaming pretty much every line, but it's just kind of crazy. Like, what makes this guy work? I don't want to analyze him too much. While we were watching this film this past time, I just kept writing down, what is Big Boy on? What is he saying? He just crazy stuff.
Honestly, I think it's just as simple as he wants to be. I don't
the big know. Boy.
Did they even say the name of the town? Like, are we supposed to assume this is New York? I mean, where
New York, Chicago. I don't know.
Basically, I think he just wants to run the town because he says in the scene he wants to own the town, kind of like a what's that gangster from Chicago? Al Capone, stuff like that. So that's the way I look at it. Is he just wants to run the town, and that club is just a big, gathering and everything, and they can have backdoor deals and stuff like that. So that's the way I look at it. Is that Big Boy just wants?
But why does he need to take a hands-on approach to like the songs and everything? It's just kind of crazy.
Maybe he's in the musical theater. Maybe he has a musical theater background. I don't know. They don't really. That's a good point. They don't really explain that, but by that time you're just kind of into the film that you're like, okay, he just wants to control everything, or at least attempt to. What's funny about Big Boy is he comes off as this really smart and really, doesn't take no crap from nobody attitude. Yet he gets all these quotes from historical people and whatnot, and they're like completely made up just to look smart. I just think that's so hilarious and just ridiculous. It just fits the character so well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I want to sit down and like find out what was improv, what was not. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure the thing where he says to Tess that he loves her at the end, I think that's got to be improv. Like, where does that come from? I just
yeah, right.
I just die laughing every time he says that. It's like, I love you. It's like, what? Yeah. Where did that come from? You never even met her, so it's kind of weird. But I guess moving along, I guess we need to get into. So all this stuff's happening, but there's actually, I guess, something that's sort of like the inner conflict. The part that's actually like stands out to me is like the main conflict is this love triangle we got going, and it's Tracy, and he's being tempted. He's like, Tess is my true girl. If you guys don't know, Tess True Heart, she's the good girl. She's the one that stands by him, even though she probably shouldn't, because he just kind of treats her like she's just always going to be there, and he's always going to help out. I mean, the girl stays with this random kid that he picks up, come back to him later, but she just stays with this random kid, stays the night with him and all that. No questions asked. I'll see you tomorrow, Tracy, all that stuff. And then meanwhile, we have Breathless Mahoney, who's she's into Tracy, and this is where it gets kind of interesting, because like there's different interpretations of how he takes all this in. What do you think?
Well, I thought about it, and I didn't really understand this part as a kid, as I said earlier, but watching it as an adult and being able to really understand what's going on here, and you may have a different view on this, and that's why we're talking about it, but my opinion is, yes, he knows Breathless Mahoney is attractive. He's not an idiot, but Dick Tracy, the character, is so focused on his career and being this best cop. He's like they say, like Superman, like he's this big Boy Scout kind of guy. So he's going to be loyal to Tess no matter what. And believe us, if you haven't seen the film, I'm about to say something here. There's a scene where, well, there's actually a couple of scenes, isn't there, where Breathless Mahoney, is just throwing herself at Dick Tracy with all that she can, and Tracy has a poker face. Like, you cannot read a thing on him. But I have to believe, just as a human being, and again, this is a fantasy, I get it, but as a human being, he's having an inner turmoil even just a little bit. He has to, right? But he is so loyal to his job and to, getting crime out of his city that he spurns her. And so she finds a different way to get his attention. And of course, that's we'll discuss here in a little bit, because she becomes a different person. Spoiler alert. But yeah, but here's the thing. Why is Breathless being this way? Because, she is a gorgeous woman. She could get any guy she wants. What makes Tracy the most attractive man to her? Because, like I said, she tried really hard. I would almost even say too hard to be believable to attract this man. Like, it's a little, I don't know. What do you think, man?
Well, her motivation, not explained. I guess because it's a comic strip. She's supposed to do that. She's a bad girl. And I guess if we want to see it, she's like hangs around these monsters all the time, especially Big Boy killed her old boyfriend right in front of her. And it didn't seem like those two hit it off too well either. It seemed like the whole time she's just kind of like, she's viewed as this statue that's supposed to be like on these gangsters' arms or something. It's
almost like she's a prisoner.
She is, something. And that's the kind of the part that stood out to me this time. Is so the scenes that you're talking about with Tracy, those changed the pacing a lot. Like the whole film moves very quickly, it jumps around, and then all of a sudden the film slows down a few times. And these are the scenes where it seems like he's really emphasizing these scenes. And that's why, the first time I watched it, I was like, or the first time for the show, I should say, I thought that this was getting kind of meta. I thought that maybe Warren Beatty's saying, hey, it's time for me to settle down. I'm kind of in my 40s. I probably should find me a good girl. But man, all these girls just keep throwing themselves at me. Because, if you study his life, he's always had these affairs and stuff. He was actually dating Madonna when this film came out. And
that's just nuts.
It's kind of crazy because there's a huge age gap there. But yeah, I think she does what she does throughout the film is because she is trying her best to not be a prisoner anymore. She's tired of being pushed around. She feels like she had nothing in control, and she's trying to get back control. I think she's trying to. That's why she creates the Blank. That character is because this is her trying to do, in her way, do some good. I think. I think that's like her reaction to all the bad things that were happening around her. Her way of getting back at society, getting back at the people that came after her, because the Blank is really an anti-hero. He's not really good nor bad. Does a little bit of good, does a little bit bad, and I think that's kind of what she is. She is kind of a gray character, and that's kind of hard to see in this world of black and white characters that we see in this film, because definitely you can tell who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, but she kind of straddles in between, I think.
Yeah, and I have to say, and I told you this the other day, I really love Madonna's performance in this film. She does not phone it in, and this is Madonna like when she's getting huge. She's becoming the big star.
She and Michael Jackson are probably the biggest people in the world at this point.
Right, and she puts her whole self into this film. Like, she is Breathless Mahoney, and again, you do feel sorry for her, and you do. I remember watching this the other day and just feeling really sorry for this woman because she doesn't have anybody but these guys that are, monsters, literally, monsters. And so she's trying to get this good guy, which is Dick Tracy's, attention, and he's not really feeling her. So it's, it's a sad thing for the character. But as far as Madonna's performance, I gotta say, man, I really, I got choked up towards the end when her and Tracy talk at the end, and she's selling it. She's selling it without a question. And I was just really impressed. And I told you, she's one of my favorite performances of this entire film, because as a film that's this silly and has all these colors and everything, there's a few scenes, especially with Breathless, that are just gripping. And so kudos to Madonna. She definitely was one of the high points for me, anyways, of this film.
Yeah, because she's not going to get an Oscar for this, or she wasn't going to get one, but it's more than her acting. It's her star appeal. She is a star. She is magnetic. And I think that's perfect for this role because, I mean, they're really doing a riff on like the 1930s, 1940s sort of actress, I guess. And she's great at that.
Yeah. It's like a modern Marilyn Monroe. There we go. You know, it's kind of like that a little bit.
Yeah, she's a little Marilyn Monroe-ish, a little bit
Betty Davis.
Mae West or something like that. She's definitely got her thing going, but even when she like sings, she's really good. I mean, obviously that's her job. But in this film, I think every song that she sings is a unique performance. It's not like every song's the same. Right. Look at her face, what's going on. I mean, that's why I noticed this time, like, there's a few scenes where she feels trapped. She doesn't even move. She just stands there and sings. And then there's some scenes where she's feeling pretty good, especially after she's done the stuff with the blank and she's starting to get some of that control back. She's letting it go. And I think those scenes are great. And that's the scene where she's singing the song with Mandy Patinkin. It's a really good one.
Yeah, that is what I was about to mention that, and I'm glad you did, because that is one of my favorite things. And I've always liked that scene, even as a kid. I just thought that song was pretty. But the way that is shot, and Beatty takes the time to let them basically perform the song, you know, by the piano, and the way it's shot, and the way 88 Keys looks, I mean, I love that. That's one of my favorite parts of the film. Kudos on that one specifically.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I love the musical numbers. I think this movie could have been really redone as a musical. I know they had some of the Sondheim songs in there.
Right.
And don't want to belittle Danny Elfman here either.
Oh, no.
I mean, he produces a great score. But yeah, the music is amazing. My favorite scene is the Back in Business. That's just a great number, and just the way it's edited. And the gangsters are going on a spree, just doing their thing. I just love that part.
Back in business and ain't it grand? Let the good times roll. Yesterday things were out of hand. Now they're under control.
So you mentioned the triangle. So there's another lady in Dick Tracy's life that's his girlfriend, but she tried really hard to get him to propose. And that is, of course, Tess Trueheart, who has played Glenn Headley, I believe is her name. And she played Tess Trueheart, a love interest for Dick Tracy. And I know you really liked her performance in this as well.
Yeah, she's good. I mean, like I said, her character she's loyal to a T. And that's, I guess, what they needed. I kind of remember watching like those old serials. I had a few on VHS, and I remember that's kind of the way the character was. It's just like, she's just there. Right. She hangs out with Dick Tracy, and she's really good. And she's got some really standout scenes, like where she shows the kid up, and it's like, you're not gonna bully me, you're not gonna mess with me. She just kind of has this different side of her that we don't get to see a lot of times. But I don't know. I think it's a good performance. I think she definitely adds to the film, and it's good that I guess Tracy ends up with her and not with Breathless.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, at the start of the film, with all this going on, they inherit a kid who tries to steal a watch from a guy in the diner that they're going to eat at. And of course, Tracy chases him down to a little shack and beats up on another guy that's kind of a monster guy. You don't even know his name. But
unless you played the video game, then you find out he's Steve the Tramp. That's
right. So then they become basically surrogate parents, and Charlie Charisma plays the kid. He was also in Hook and a couple other things. What are your feelings on the kid character?
Now we got to get into this. So this is the part, if I was going to recut this movie, I'd just completely take this out.
Really?
Because to me, so I know why he's there. He's there to try to make Tracy realize, hey, you got to be with Tess. You got to settle down. You got to be a man. Stop being this cop all the time. But to me, I'm like, can we just have it with her? Do we have to have the kid too? Yeah. Because the kid, he's annoying. I don't like kid characters a lot of times in movies. They have to be really good for me to like them. Sure. But this kid is so obnoxious. I mean, he... I do like the one scene where he saves Tracy from the bomb. Good scene, the way they kind of edited that together, and it's very intense. But other than that, I'm like, could that just not be some random kid that was walking by, or maybe
Yeah.
Tracy just gets out himself. I just don't like this kid. The actor, I like him in some stuff. He is a little bit annoying, especially in What About Bob? He's kind of annoying in that one. But yeah, this I don't know. I'm just not a huge fan of this character. I find everything with him is like filler, and I don't like filler in my film like this. I want to get to the thing. I want to keep going on this ride. I don't want the movie to slow down just for some stupid kid.
Go suck an egg.
I think he makes some valid points, and I respect that, but I'll go ahead and defend him and say, Beatty knew this film was going to be targeted toward kids, and what a better way, other than, all the stuff you can buy, but then to put a character that's a kid that all of us kids can kind of live through. And that's why I think this kid is in the film. I think Charlie does okay. I think, I don't think he's annoying. I think he is, there might be a little too much of him, and they do rely on him. But I don't know. I'm a take it or leave it guy. I think he has a couple good scenes. I like the scene in the jail with Dick Tracy when he says he's going to be Dick Tracy Jr. I felt for that. I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. So I think there is some good things to say about him and the character and the performance. But I understand, there's some kids that, kind of get in the way of films, and it's just like, what's the problem? I'm not going to go that far with this character in particular, but I can understand where you might do so. So your points are valid.
Yeah, my thing is they're skipping some steps here. It's like, don't you need to get married first before you guys go and have a kid or something?
Right.
I don't know. It's the one part of the film that kind of bugs me. Yeah. Which is kind of, exceptional considering this is a film that, like, the action, if you want to say it's an action film, and that's kind of how they're billing it as, it's not really there. It's got one big shootout at the end, and it has some random scene where I guess Tracy makes a seesaw, and then Sam Ketchum jumps down and springs him up through the air. It's not. We're not coming here for that. We're coming here for the vibe. We're coming here for the music, like we said. It's just a fun, sort of unique experience, and that's why I kind of like to revisit it from time to time, because I think this movie has a lot to offer. It's a feast for the eyes, and it's just really good filmmaking.
Yeah. We talked about a couple scenes that kind of slowed the film down, but I think for the most part, the pacing in this film is really, really good. There's not too many scenes other than one or two that kind of slow the film down, but otherwise you are moving, even when, Tess leaves and goes to her mom's, I remember that being longer as a kid. I remember that being kind of a slower thing, but it really wasn't. I really don't think that those scenes, really hurt the pacing of the film too much, to a point where you're just like, okay, yeah. So I really applaud the pacing. Now, we talked about the music as far as Madonna and, of course, Mandy Patinkin and everything, but you mentioned earlier, too, Danny Elfman did the score for this film, and this is right off the heels of Batman, so this guy's on fire at this point, and I adore the score of this film. It's just, it's perfect for the character. I don't know how Danny does it, but man, he knocks it out of the park with the score of this film.
Yeah, he captures that whole comic strip feel. It's bombastic. It's heroic at times. It's really good score, and like it does the thing of, like, to me, what I really like about this film is you just feel immersed. You feel like you're part of it, and even though it's very superficial, it's very fantasy oriented. I'm just in it the whole time. I'm never like looking away, really, never looking at my watch. I love it.
Now, we mentioned there's a lot of cameos in this film of actors, and there's some actors that you don't know. If you already didn't know, you wouldn't be able to tell that they were who they were. So as far as the cameo characters, who's your favorite?
I already mentioned James Caan. That was really cool. That's a good one. Having a little Godfather reunion there, and I guess he blows up in the car too. So we're like, he doesn't blow up in a car in Godfather. Spoiler for that film, but I guess Dustin Hoffman as Mumbles he's He's just so funny, especially when they record him and they play it back and they're like, "Oh, that's what it says." Like, "Big boy did it. Big boy did it." I love that part.
And that's the exact same scene. Court stenographer is played by Kathy Bates. I think it was like one of her first films. So that was kind of interesting if you didn't know. But yeah, I love Mumbles. I think Dustin Hoffman is just great. And the look on his face when Dick Tracy slows the thing down to where you can hear "Big boy did it. Big boy." It just is like all the color runs out of his face and he just starts freaking out. I just like, oh, Dustin Hoffman, you were just too good, man. So.
And I guess we forget how good of an actor he was and how big he was at this point.
Right.
Yeah, he was great. And there was one other that jumped to mind when you were talking just now. It was...
What do you think, Mumbles?
Big boy did it. Big boy did it. Big boy did it. Big boy did it.
So there's a lot of really good little performances, and we mentioned the music in here. I love all like the coming from a musical theater background. I love all these tunes that Stephen Sondheim, and I did not know this till just a few years ago, that Stephen Sondheim had written all these songs and everything, and they're just great. I mean, that's one of the things about the film that I just really love is these songs, because they really feel like they're old standards, old classics from this era, and they just really put you back into that mindset. So I thought that was a really cool little nugget for the film.
Yeah, definitely. Like I was saying, final thoughts, very immersive film.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun, very cool, and more people need to watch it. I mean, came out in 1990. I'm hoping Disney kind of dusts this one off and re-releases it, because it's one of those that I don't want to fall out of conversation. I want people to be able to find it and watch it easily.
And that's why we're talking about it here on the SuperCaZt, because we are definitely fans of it. What do you guys think of the film? Have you seen Dick Tracy? What do you think about it? Who's your favorite character? Favorite scene? Let us know in the comments, man. What do we got next time, dude?
Well,
what do we get?
We're getting another film celebrating the anniversary, and we'll probably have a few of these years, because 1994, in case you didn't know, was a huge year for film.
Yeah.
But this is one by one of our favorite directors, Quentin Tarantino, Pulp Fiction. Yeah. I haven't watched it in a few years. I'm going to see if it's still as much fun as I remember it.
And thank you guys so much for joining us here. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel here at the SuperCaZt on YouTube. We would really appreciate it. Make sure you give us a like on the video if you enjoyed this review of Dick Tracy. And of course, you can follow us on X or Twitter or whatever it's called now at SuperCaZt. And for Steve Z, I'm the Superfosh. We'll see you guys next time on the SuperCaZt.